been out of the game for over a decade now. And when I look back on my life, I'm amazed at what this small town kid was able to accomplish.
30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Starks.
It's crazy, but life is a lot like the game of basketball. You can be a fingertip away from having it all, then lose it, all in a heartbeat.
One of those just 6 sad nights for John Starks.
But when you're at your lowest point, that's when the most strength is needed. It's when the most important decision is made. Should you hold back, become timid, and go into a shell? Or should you get up, dust yourself off, get the ball back in your hands, and keep shooting?
I'm a New Yorker, and like everyone else in this city, I grew up a huge Starks fan. So when I first heard he was from Oklahoma, I was shocked. It was amazing to me that the biggest, toughest city in the world adopted an outsider as one of their own.
Knick fans love John Starks. The intensity and the desire, John fit right in.
They accepted John for the kind of player and man that he was, which I think allowed him to go to certain levels on the court that nobody thought he could get to.
At no point did you say, I wish that guy would give more.
Starks is telling all the fans over here, see my heart, see my heart.
People loved John more than any other player on that team. It's because he was like them, he was regular sized like them, and he succeeded in this land of giants by sheer force of will.
You could call it will, heart, or survival. Either way, one thing is for sure. It's easy to trace back to see where John got it from.
This is an area that I grew up in. One of many stopping points over here in North Tulsa.
From an early age, John developed a love for the game of basketball through watching his two older brothers play. And as a kid, you could always find him at the neighborhood court.
We're over here at Cheyenne Park now. Made a name for myself in this park. This is where you gain your respect. Oh, man. This court right here was my sanctuary. This is where I would go to kind of relieve stress that was going on in my life. Whatever I was going through, you know, I'll work it out on the court. I enjoyed the competition. My brothers, we used to challenge each other all the time.
Come on, let's go.
We had to win because we know if we lost, you're gonna get it. They're gonna razz you and everything, and you hated that. I know I hated that. Psychological edge that he had on me. He was my big brother, so I really wasn't going at him like I needed to go at him. And he kind of like broke me through that whole barrier. I used to jump. I used to get off the ground.
I could dunk backwards, you know, I could get up, you know. I remember one time I was beating John and I was killing him. Fouling him hard, the whole nine. I was giving him the business. And he walked off the court and I threw the ball at him. And I told him, don't you walk off the court, don't you never let a man know that he could beat you.
It makes you work, it makes you aspire to be the best, and it gives you such passion.
When he started going in and taking it and dunking it on me, that's when I knew he got it then.
Finally, when I beat him, I felt like, you know, I didn't overcome a lot of obstacles mentally. We used to play in the rain, sleet, or snow. You know, we was out playing.
Till the street lamp come on, when the street lamp come on, it's okay to come back in.
Growing up, John was learning how to become a man on the court. When it came to becoming a man off the court, teaching him that was actually the responsibility of two women, his grandmother, Callie Mae, and his mother, Irene.
I had strong people in my family to get a grasp of what life is all about. The way I grew up, you know, my mother would never ever let us feel sorry for ourselves. She wanted us to understand that hard work is what's going to get you out of the situation that you're in. At times we didn't have a lot to eat, you know, at times, and so my grandmother, she used to always have a pot of beans going on the stove, so we could always count on that.
Despite the two women's best efforts to raise the family, they still had a daily struggle just to survive.
Picture of the family. There was about 16 of us in the household in a 2-bedroom home. Sleeping accommodations wasn't always the best.
We used to have box springs for beds, and we had bricks. That was what held our beds up.
This is the room that we pretty much grew up in. Had a couple of bunk beds in here. We had beds stacked up to the ceiling, and we slept 2 in a bed.
During our elementary years, pretty much from that point on, and we was on welfare.
It wasn't the typical middle-class type childhood. You know, John grew up poor and there was a lot of fighting.
I was probably around about 12, 13 when I really started to get conceptually that, you know, this is not how life's supposed to be. Take these wire hangers for the basketball goal. Oh, yeah. Just to hook it to the door, yeah, and get a sock or a tennis ball, knowing me one of my uncle's tennis ball. Yeah. Yeah, that was our basketball goal. We used to have many battles.
Many battles, dunks.
Grandmother in there, cut it out!
Cut it out, get out of the house! Y'all get outside!
My brothers, we used to always compete. Just a little game of table football. I used to get mad when they used to beat me and you have to put up the field goal and you have to kick it through. And they used to kick me and hit me right here in the center of my head all the time and make fun of me and what have you. And that drove me. That really did. Just a little simple game like that really put a lot of fire in me.
Although John got his competitive edge from his brothers, that was about the only positive lesson they could have taught him at the time, as the two men made a series of bad decisions that let their environment get the best of them and eventually landed him in prison.
I didn't live right down the street, literally 2 houses from block where, you know, pimps and prostitutes run around.
I spiraled out of control with gangs and drugs at that time. You know, I ended up getting cut up across my face. I got shot all up and held hostage. I was a drug dealer. Gangs started becoming attractive and stuff to me, so I started going down that road.
Now I'm making tons of money and I can take care of the family now. People looking at me in a different light now. That's where I got caught up at.
The family started to see how John's exposure to that environment rubbed off on him a little bit. Despite being the best athlete in town, he only played 1 year of high school basketball. Still, he was fortunate enough to get a chance to play at the college level, until he blew it.
When I went off to college, not taking life seriously, got caught up in breaking into a dorm room and stealing a boom box.
John was expelled from that school, and another one the following year. He was forced to move back into the crowded household when he came to the realization he had to make a change in his life.
Things weren't working out. He came back. His brother was selling drugs, making money, and something in him told him just not to do that and to keep trying and to follow his passion.
John passed up the easy temptation to make money on the street to work on his hoop game and get paid via a more humbling job.
I went to start working at Safeway. Getting ready to go by my old store I used to work at. That's kind of where I kind of started on the right path. Started working out, making an honest living. Making $3.35 an hour. Back in those days, that was the minimum wage. Me and my wife were dating. So she'll come drop me off and come pick me up. I'm curious to know if this building is still here. Actually, this is Safeway. Used to be Safeway. It's Stowe's office furniture now. Starting off bagging groceries. So I did that for about a year. It was a good phase in my life, I should say, because I needed to grow up. I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. One night I decided that I wanted to make a change and get back into school.
To reach his NBA dream, he knew he had an uphill battle ahead of him, and it started with reinstating himself into junior college.
When I first walked back into school, it was just like a breath of fresh air because I went back in there with a whole different mindset.
This time, not taking anything for granted, John would flourish before transferring to Division I's Oklahoma State University, where he put an exclamation point on his senior year.
He felt that he deserved and he could play with the best guys, not just guys playing college. He watched NBA games and he felt that he could play with those guys.
John's dream had finally come true. Although undrafted, he was picked up by the Golden State Warriors. All that hard work had finally paid off, until he was cut from the team. He then had a decision to make. He could walk away from the game with his head held high, already having defied tremendous odds, or he could do whatever it takes to keep his dream alive. He chose the latter, which included playing in the CBA for 5 years. By the time 1990 rolled around, he was sure his shot at the NBA had passed him by. But then, he got a call from an NBA team to come participate in their training camp.
I just remember this guy showed up, sort of have a chip on his shoulder, but you know, he worked hard. He had a pretty good camp, but they were gonna cut him. We were having a practice, it was a rough practice. He thought he was a Superman, he was gonna try and dunk on me. I block it, and I almost broke his neck. You know, he's over there in pain, you know, holding his knee, squirming around on the floor, and it was a blessing in disguise for him.
It was a rule at the time of the NBA that a team had to keep a player, you know, if he's hurt. He actually made the Knicks by default.
Either way, he was in the NBA, and the checks that were coming in were proof. They also served as the key for him being able to help his family get out of their rut.
Our lives changed. I can remember the very first time John dispersed money. When the FedEx man came, me and Juju were fighting over the FedEx, and you know, it was just like so exciting. It was our first little check and it was only $1,000, but everyone got $1,000. That was a lot of money for us.
He would be coming up to the county jail. Even when he was at Oklahoma State and I needed a little bit of money, John would put something on my books. And then when he got to making money, then, you know, anything, tennis shoes, everything. I was with best dressed inmate in Oklahoma correctional facility.
With John's family now being taken care of, he could concentrate on basketball. And things were about to change. The following season, the Knicks brought in Hall of Fame coach Pat Riley to take the reins. Coming from coaching Magic, Kareem, and the Showtime Lakers, you wouldn't think that he and Starks' styles would be a good fit. But Pat gave John an opportunity to play, and there was something between them that instantly clicked.
Pat, who was kind of a scrappy player himself in his NBA days, I think he kind of related to the scrappiness of John Starks.
I don't think every coach would have seen what John Starks was and what his heart meant to the game. I think a lot of people would have looked at him and said, 6'4" guy, 6'5" guy, might be listed taller than he actually is, played in the CBA, he can shoot a little, great, so what? There's a lot of guys out there like that. But Pat Riley saw something else. He saw something deep inside that was going to give his team an intangible.
A coach needs to have players who are his allies. I decided very early on in my career in New York that he was one of the guys that I was going to go with, just like Patrick, just like Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason. And these guys were with me. So if I went up with them, we went up with them. If we're going to go down, I was going to go down with them. And that's just the relationship that I cultivated with John.
Pat Riley wasn't John's only close relationship in the organization. Still, one of his best friends to this day is the guy who was responsible for him making the Knicks roster in the first place.
What you been doing? Just working? Eating? Eating right?
Cut back my eating.
Did you? Not eating late?
Working out. I'm hungry as hell today, though.
Is that right?
John Starks, Patrick Ewing, tied at the hip. He was my Robin. He's Robin. I'm Batman.
I always remember the pass that I first gave him for a dunk. I seen Patrick at the corner of my eye. I just flipped it to him.
The new dynamic duo in town.
That was a very special moment because it seemed like we really connected then.
My belief that every great big man needs a wingman. Be it Magic and Kareem, Shaq and Kobe, Shaq and Wade, myself and John.
He was like number 2 option on the team. We knew as a team what we had to go to, who our bread and butter was.
With this new 1-2 punch, championship aspirations were in New York again.
You gotta get a ticket for this.
I waited online all night.
They finally had a ferocious two-guard to go with an unstoppable big man. Chemistry between the two only got stronger with time.
The pick and roll, the way they ran things, they just had this chemistry on the court. I think John realized quickly that Patrick was the most talented player he'd ever even stand next to. And I think he loved it.
It's easy to love playing with a #1 draft pick, 7'1" Hall of Fame center. But what made this relationship special? Was it the respect? It was mutual.
Well, Patrick, I would always say to him, who needs to go? Who's holding us back? We want to win. And the guy that he always mentioned as being a critical cog going forward was John Starks. And I would say, wait a minute, this guy is a CBA guy. This is a former, he was a bagger in a grocery store, Patrick. Think about who you're talking about here. He said, Dave, the guy wants to win just as bad as I do.
I've played with a lot of people. There's no other guy that I would want in my foxhole other than John. Because he's not going to turn and run when the pressure's on. I cherish the time I played with him. I wouldn't change that for the world.
3 days in a row. I shot 71. Man, when you, hey, don't worry about it. It's coming back.
Oh, no. He's worse than me. I brought mine.
That's
all
called
the
a
way
move.
down.
That's a move, Rube.
Come on, man. Let me
That's a
open that roof. Open that roof.
Get off me, man. Don't worry about it. Mine's coming back. Mine's about like yours now. Mine's coming back though.
I'm gone.
I'll tell you what's good for it. I'm tell you what. Is that Indian hip. You ever heard of Indian hip? I'm serious. Oh, shit. Indian hip. Get some of the Indian hip, yeah.
Well, it ain't working.
And there it is. No, my shit was like, look, all back here, my shit was gone.
It ain't working.
Yeah, it is. Try it. Try it.
Patrick and Riley both remain very close friends with John to this day. Starks has always been the type of guy to appreciate having his friends and family around him. It's because at an early age, he was taught how tomorrow wasn't guaranteed for anyone.
This is my auntie's house right here.
Which one?
The yellow one.
We have new information this morning on a developing story out of North Tulsa. We now know the names of the 2 people killed in an apparent double homicide.
When I was in the 10th grade, my auntie and my cousin got murdered.
Police say when she opened the door, she saw blood spattered.
Me and my cousin Antonio, we was up at the house, my grandmother's house, when we got the call that Anita and Shelly's been shot. And so we darted out the house and ran down here. It seemed like we was just floating on there. The police there ambulance, and we walking up and seeing them brought out in a body bag. It like paralyzes you.
Well, right now, police have very little to go on with this, and they're hoping to learn more as the day goes on.
I can remember just sitting back and just crying. And my grandmother, she just gathered us all and we just prayed.
The officers are still canvassing the neighborhood. Of course, there are a lot of family members who are around here right now who are very concerned about what's going on.
At the time, that tragedy only added to the scary, sleepless nights that John was already experiencing. He was a constant witness to his mother being abused, something that caused anger and other emotions to bottle up inside of him.
Whenever you're in an abusive household, you live by fear. I used to always be the last one to go to sleep. I was afraid of something may happen to her. She wasn't a big woman, maybe about 5 foot. Guys was like, big guys, like 6 foot, weighing about 200 and some pounds. She'd never back down for us. She would get in there and she was a scrapper.
My mother was a fighter, an extremely strong person. That is something that she instilled in us. If you don't know how to make it happen, you find a way to make it happen.
The fire that's inside of me, a lot of it comes from my mother. I just put it inside of me that no one would ever disrespect me again.
The only problem was this was 90s basketball. Disrespect was happening on a regular basis. So John became no stranger to ejections and earned a reputation as one of the chippiest players in the league.
The Knicks guard must have had problems with room service earlier in the day, or maybe he was taking...
It's just the kind of guy he is. He's always have something to say. He's always intense. He's always chirping. But that's what made him so good.
He was the guy who could get into it with Reggie Miller and wasn't afraid to go up against a player that he was judged inferior to. If John Starks wasn't rebelling against all the forces of mankind against him, what kind of motivation did he have?
John was right in the middle of everything, every battle, every fight. Not a surprise.
The team learned to take the good and the bad with John. His intensity is what made him the player he was. The Knicks fed off his energy, took his identity.
Starks was a hard-nosed player. It's always good to have people like that because that person has your back. You don't have to worry about somebody intimidating your team or your teammates.
His commitment to his team and his willingness to do whatever it took to win really is what set him apart from a lot of other players. We got to come out, play with a lot of energy. If we lose, we're going to go down fighting. He really brought a different attitude to Madison Square Garden.
After years of heated rivalries and being the punching bag for the Bulls and the Pacers, the Knicks weren't going to take it anymore. Essentially, they used the 1993 playoffs to put the league on notice that they were as tough as anybody, as good as anybody, and won't back down.
I'm watching him and Reggie getting into it. I'm like, John, calm down. We need you on the court. They're like, okay, all right, I'm all right. He goes down the other end, boom.
And Starks and Miller going at each other, and John Starks has been thrown out.
I'm like, motherfucker, so what the hell is wrong with you? What did we just talk about down the other end?
They are so upset with Starks. Not a smart move.
I'm still seeing me smacking him and trying to tell him, what the hell did you just do?
Look at Ewing's reaction. They're beating Starks up.
A few weeks later, his mother is at the game. She comes up to me. She's like, Patrick, I love you. You're like a son to me. But if you ever put your hand on my son again, I'm gonna kick your ass.
The Knicks would eventually beat the Pacers and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. John's intensity would only rise with a chance to return New York to the Promised Land. They would first have to get past the Chicago Bulls, who were coming off a second straight title and had the best player on earth. Just don't tell that to John.
The Bulls and the Knicks back in the 90s was one of the fiercest rivalries in all of sports. The way he competed certainly garnered a lot of respect around the league.
I like that in him. You never let somebody know he's good. You still got to put your pants on too. So at the end of the day, I like how John put his pants on.
He took it personally and challenged Michael and the Bulls. That's where John began to rise.
By this time in the playoffs, John had already put himself, the Knicks, and their toughness on notice to the league. So, in Game 3, with about a minute to go and a 3-point lead, John would let his game deliver the blow.
If there's one play that stands out concerning John Starks, it would be the dunk against the hated Bulls.
The dunk will always define John Starks.
The moment people remember most.
I remember I wasn't even in New York at the time. I was watching TV at a friend's.
I was right there, and I seen it coming.
I happened to be announcing the game.
We're down to 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Starks.
But wait a minute, what just happened?
Starks was able to sky.
It was unexpected, like he elevated and then elevated again.
The fact that he believed that he could do it and executed it, I mean, it just left people speechless.
I mean, that's probably the best dunk you've seen in basketball. John being John, I mean, he always did things that surmounted his height.
Still one of the greatest playoff memories of all time. When you say the dunk in NBA circles, you don't think of Michael Jordan taking off from the dotted line. You think of John Starks.
B.J. Armstrong jumped to my high side, and I just took off towards the hoop. I knew I had to go in strong. I jumped as hard as I could. I spun out and ran back down court. Teammates came up to me, congratulating me.
John Starks with the move of the night.
Fearless. You got to be fearless to go in there dunk on Horace Grant.
It wasn't until the next day that I picked up the newspaper and saw who else was in that picture.
Look who was at the top, none other than Michael Jordan, and he couldn't do anything about it.
And I was like, wow, finally got him on a poster.
The dunk was about the only good to come out of the series for John and the Knicks, as they ended up losing to the Bulls and watched Michael capture his third straight title before retirement. That heartbreak was all the motivation the Knicks needed. The following year, the former junior college undrafted guard had his best season and was named an NBA All-Star as he helped the Knicks cruise to the best record in the East. With home court advantage, they weren't going to miss this opportunity.
Ewing back out for Starks. Again the three, and this time he hits it. The Knicks over the Bulls in 7. It is on to face Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers.
For the first time since the 70s, the Knicks were on the brink of reaching the NBA Finals. But they were also on the brink of a huge disappointment. Down 1 point late in the decisive Game 7.
Pacers by 1, 34 seconds left.
And the Pacers are expecting some kind of pick and roll play here between Starks and Ewing.
Well, Ewing with the pick. Here's Starks. John Starks with the throw. Ewing puts it down. The New York Knicks get into the NBA Finals.
I walked immediately off the court, but I remember Patrick, putting, in sort of celebrating. I just remember that moment in the Garden as being a real surreal moment.
Life was good for the Knicks and us fans, and it was getting even better in the finals versus Houston. After 5 games, John led the Knicks in scoring, racking up nearly 18 points and 6 assists a game. With some clutch fourth-quarter performances, he helped the Knicks to a 3-2 series lead, 1 win away from an NBA championship, headed to Houston for the remainder of the series.
As soon as you step inside this city, it's like, then those emotions start to like swell up inside of you.
You know, we're gonna meet a young lady. She's doing her best to try and find the room you stayed in.
I know some type of feeling probably gonna come out of me, you know, probably take me back. Those emotions just started to build and build.
This crowd hoping to spark the Rockets. They are sky high here at the Summit.
The team paid its dues, took its lumps, and now was going to be rewarded. That's how it's supposed to happen.
You got to win it. You can't leave it to doubt. You got to get it finished. This is the chance you've been waiting for your whole life. Do it now.
It was the biggest game of their professional careers, but you couldn't tell that from watching the first half.
Starks off the fade for three. Rebound. Tip from Herrera to Cassell. Rockets on the run again. Here comes Cassell. Accelerating and hitting.
The Rockets capitalized on momentum off their home court while the Knicks faltered.
Ewing with the nice fake. And then tips it home. Will not count. The Knicks with only 15 points in the second quarter.
Going into halftime, the Knicks trailed by 10. By the time the fourth quarter came around, Houston still had the Knicks with their backs against the wall. Unfortunately for them, that's John's comfort zone.
I always knew fourth quarter he was going to rise.
Starks all the way. Oh, what a move by John. Starks.
All during that series, John was giving them the business in the fourth quarter. He had to be the MVP of the series because he was killing them.
Starks hits the three.
Just like that, the Knicks were in it, and you could hear a pin drop in that arena.
John has this incredible run, this amazing fourth quarter.
John Starks keeping the Knicks alive.
No one could stop him. He got us back in the game by himself.
John Starks unconscious here in the fourth quarter.
The way he has been shooting that night was incredible.
Starks all the way. Down by 5, a minute 20 to go. In the fourth quarter, Starks for three. Yes.
He gets hot at the end. He is going to be the hero, and the Knicks are finally going to get their ring.
We were watching one of the greatest fourth quarter performances in finals history. With 16 points in the period, John had single-handedly brought the Knicks all the way back within 2, with 5.5 seconds remaining and the ball in their possession.
I would not be surprised to see John Starks try to win it from beyond the arc.
It was a pick and roll. I'm playing against Patrick, and there's John Starks. I don't know who is going to take the shot.
He steps back and pulls up for a three. I said, this is it. This is the title.
And out of nowhere, seemingly, here comes Hakeem's arm.
Somehow Olajuwon raised his shot with just the tip of his finger.
I was just happy to be close, at least to deflect the ball.
Starks for three, came up short.
It's gone. You know, championship, game's lost.
And it is over, and it will go to a 7th and decisive game on Wednesday.
I was heartbroken. John was that close to having a statue of himself outside MSG. It was that big a shot. Still, they had one more game left, but 3 long, grueling days to think about the missed opportunity before they took the floor for Game 7.
We stayed in the city of Houston. I mean, you couldn't even watch TV because every station, it was Houston, Houston. Being there for so long seemed like forever, and it wasn't that long, but it seemed like a long time.
That last second shot really weighed on him. He knew how close he was from having it all, and felt he let his teammates, fans, and family down.
How you doing?
Great to have you back.
Good,
It's a pleasure
good.
to meet
Well,
you.
thank you.
And here's your room key.
Okay.
We actually tried to see which room you'd stayed in the last time that you were here during the tournament. You'll see that the hotel is quite different than it was.
With 3 days off until Game 7, he basically locked himself in his Houston hotel room, letting the disappointment and nerves eat away at him.
The best way to describe it is like you're sitting in solitary and time is moving slow. Night before the game, I didn't sleep at all. Even when I shut my eyes, it's like I'm wide awake, playing the game over and over in my mind. I knew that I wanted to reach out and talk to somebody, but I didn't know how about going about doing it.
I wish I could have got to talk to him in between the games, but I was locked up. John will sit up and think about something and he gets too pumped up.
I was heartbroken. John was that close to having a statue of himself outside MSG. It was that big a shot. Still, they had one more game left with 3 long, grueling days to think about the missed opportunity before they took the floor for Game 7.
Almost each Knick to a man told me that this was the longest day of their entire life.
Once the game started, you trying to figure out how you can like relax and calm down. For some reason, I couldn't figure it out. When you're in the zone, everything seemed like complete slow motion. In my mind, everything was going 100 miles an hour.
Here's Starks. John Starks has been off.
I always believed that I was going to hit the next shot and that's going to get me going. And that shot never came.
Here comes Anthony. Starks again for 3. I would think you reach a point, hey, you got to stop shooting.
It was tough to watch. It really was, because John just kept firing away. Why would Riley keep John in the game?
Riley's decision to leave John in while struggling has been one of the most scrutinized coaching decisions in sports history. But only from the outside looking in. For Pat, he wanted a championship, but he already had his champion.
I wasn't going to go to the wire without him. We would not have gotten there without him.
When you have confidence in a player, you don't want to quit on him in any situation.
As the game progressed, things were only getting worse for the Knicks and John.
So he continues to fire away. John Starks is now 2 for 17, 0 for 10 from three-point land.
One of these shots is going to go down. That's the way I've been all throughout my career. I may shoot 0 for 10, then I'll go run off 8 straight buckets on you.
One of those 6 sad nights for John Starks.
And then it was over.
Time running out on the New York Knicks. The Houston Rockets are NBA champions.
It was quite a disappointing moment, you know, for all of us.
It was a letdown for the whole team, but the brunt of the blame from the outside was all put on John.
In Game 7, John shot 2 for 18.
In Houston, he had the worst night of his career.
It was hard for me. Guys coming up wanting to tease me about the game. I'm having to beat up guys over. What could I say? It hurt me. I know it hurted him.
Since that game, John has never stepped foot in the Summit as a spectator again, until now.
It's a ride to where, you know, I had probably one of my worst games, and I don't know how I will feel until I get there.
Only now it's not the Summit that he'll be walking into. That same building that housed one of the lowest moments in his life is now home to Joel Osteen and the Lakewood Church.
Hey, Joel.
How are you?
How you doing?
Great to have you.
Good. How's everything?
Good. It's awesome to have you back.
Well, thank you. It's been a while since I've been back here. Yeah. From what? How many years? 16 years? Yeah, about 16 years. Yeah, since the finals. Yeah.
Wait till you see inside. It's really different. These are the seats that people used to watch you play in. I've seen you play many games here, rooted against you, but you were tough.
Well, thank you.
You were awesome. You were awesome. I had season tickets right over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I sat right here on these 2 end seats, and this is where I brought Victoria on my first date as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I brought her to a basketball game, first date ever, but she wasn't a big basketball fan, but she'd come and watch all the people.
Oh, yeah.
So she'd had to see all these stories going on, but she got to where she loved to watch.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
You know what's amazing, John, is in 1994 when I sat in these seats watching you play, rooting against you, you know, I was working behind the scenes for my parents at the ministry. I'd never ministered before. My father couldn't get me up in front of people. I was scared to death. Here we are now, we own this facility. I'm a minister.
God is full of mercy. He doesn't want you to stay where you are. He wants to restore and breathe new life back into you. His dream is to take your broken pieces and bring you out better off than you were before.
I just celebrate the fact that, you know, you took the time to come back to a place that wasn't necessarily a great memory. What's it like to be sitting here today and remember difficult times?
Well, you know, being back here and looking around, obviously, everything has changed, you know, kind of eerie in a sense because, you know, you think of the summit.
One of those just sick, sad nights for John Starks.
It was heart-wrenching, you know, because that's what you dreamed of as a young man growing up. You know, you always want to be in a Game 7. And you have the greatest game ever, and you end up, you know, glorified by the world, you know, and end up winning the championship, and it just didn't happen. And after that game, I mean, I sat in the showers just like bawling like a little kid, and just felt just like devastated because not only did I felt like I let myself down, but I let my teammates down and let the fans down and so many people that believed in me.
You know what, we all fail, we all go through difficult times and dark hours, but you know what, God's got us in the palm of His hand. He's guiding us, and it's those experiences that build our character and make us who we are. And you know more than anybody, without a great battle, you won't have a great victory. And sometimes in the midst of the battle, people stay there and they fall into self-pity and they think, why me, and this is not right. But you know, our ministry is about lifting people up and saying, you know what, keep going, because there's going to be a victory if you'll just keep being faithful.
With this opportunity at hand, John would return to the spot where he was closest to basketball glory.
There's center, and so the benches are over there. So what side were you on when you shot it?
Over here.
He could be bitter, he could be angry, he could be down on himself. But when you talk to him, you feel a joy, you feel a peace.
About right in here.
Yeah, about right in here.
About right here.
Man, isn't that something? You remember it like yesterday, don't you?
Yeah. Game 7 may pop up, but Game 6, I always think about that particular shot. If I had to go do it over again, I probably told Coach, bring Charles up, because Otis Thorpe, you know, he's agile, but he's not like Olajuwon. Olajuwon was like Cat Quit with long arms that could jump out the gym. And he just got his fingertips on it. In order for me to get through it, I had to go relive the whole pain again and, you know, get past it and not let it tie me down.
Now, I understand through the grapevine that there is a basketball court and hoop somewhere with a basketball.
There is. We've got the original floor, too.
Oh, man, this is like full court.
Yeah.
You guys,
This is the actual court?
It is, and we cut the logo out because we wanted to store it. You know, the main logo, the one that they wanted on, but it's the actual floor. We came in and put it down. I think we resanded it, but you know.
This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I just think practice facility. This is like a great practice facility.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
I grew up playing. there's nothing like basketball. This is like playing golf with a lot of people watching.
Yeah, right.
I can't even... Oh, my shirt.
Nice. Nice form. You got nice form rotation.
Oh, no.
You got to loosen that shirt up a little bit.
I got to pull my shirt out.
There you go. Nice.
Oh.
I need a whole net. I need a whole net, though.
We go out here and shoot something.
Okay. Oh. Ah, there you go. To be able to come back here to this beautiful facility and to get it out my system. I feel like this is definitely a blessing to be able to do this.
The common theme in John's life has been to get up when you're knocked down and to continue to believe in yourself. The following season, after a disappointment that would have sent most stars into a depression, John followed it up by becoming the first player in NBA history to sink 200 three-pointers in a season. It's just in his makeup to keep moving forward. Throughout franchise changes, he still stood around as the face of the franchise, helping to usher in a new era of Knicks basketball.
First time with the Knicks, people have been saying, well, the Knicks need a shooting guard. The first person I was like, I wonder how this guy's going to accept me is John Starks. And the first time we met, you know, in the locker room, man, he just gave me a big hug. He's like, welcome, man, you know, you're going to do great here. I'll never forget it.
He did eventually win Sixth Man of the Year award and, you know, had a couple of good seasons.
NBA Sixth Man Award to our own John Starks.
The saying that said the first shall be last and the last shall be first. He put himself in the background and ended up being rewarded for it.
Coaching Magic and Kareem and James Worthy and, you know, Patrick and Oak and Lonzo and Tim Hardaway and, you know, coaching Shaquille and Dwayne Wade. He'll always be one of my favorite players ever.
Starks' basketball legacy will remain in the minds of Knicks fans forever. But it goes deeper than that. What made him so loved and endured was his selflessness, his heart. Those same traits are what drive his charity work and organizations to still give back long after his playing days.
He's been doing a lot. I mean, I've attended a lot of his golf tournaments and his charity auctions. Matter of fact, he calls me from time to time, big fella, I need you to sign this, sign a jersey, sign a ball, sign some shoes.
Aside from his philanthropy, he has also helped his family.
What's up, kid?
His formerly incarcerated brothers are now a business owner and, get this, a preacher.
When I tell my story when I'm in other churches preaching, when I really tell my story and what God has done for me, and they look at me and they said, you used to be like that? I said, yes, sir, ain't no residue. Complete change.
It's such a powerful testimony to see where we come from and how we both ended up, you know what I'm saying, to turn out the way we have turned out.
It get me choked up right now because I know what he has done for me and him. In this lifetime, I could never thank my brother enough.
As for John, he's not preaching, but is always willing to share his experiences to help others who may be in a similar position to where he was.
The journey is good, what you're going through right now. You know, you have to understand that sometimes you're gonna take a drop, but when you're down there at that level, what you gonna do with yourself? And my whole mindset when
I always think about, you know, why God chose me, you know, and why he brought me out of the situations that he brought me out of. So many people come up to me all the time and identify my life with their life and what they've been through. The inspiration that I have given them to believe in your dreams and in your goals, I think that's the reason why I was chosen for this.
This is a very special event, the 25th Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame induction banquet.
A couple of years ago, it was only fitting that Starks' career wrapped up where it all began, as he was inducted into the state of Oklahoma's Sports Hall of Fame.
We were trying to make a bet to see if you could grow a mustache back if you wanted to.
I said it looked like me, but I got better mustache.
One thing you knew about him, he definitely was going to keep shooting. And you know what? It's funny because a lot of people will look at John's legacy as that one game, but he wouldn't have made it to that one game if he didn't keep shooting, not only on the court, but off the court.
The journey was long and hard, but it was well worth it. So I accept this honor on behalf of my family.
God, I said I wasn't gonna do this. I want to thank my mother and my grandmother. I like to call them fire and ice. Anybody knew my mother knew she was fire. And my grandmother, she was ice. Steady, reliable. I can't say it enough. Thank you, Mama and Granny.
John, Travis Ford.
Yeah, Travis, how you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Doing good.
Well,
doing
thank
good.
you. Thank you.
You got one of the top 5 dunks of all time.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know that. Thank you for all the things you do for the sport and what you are.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
John's efforts have been recognized, whether it was 6th Man of the Year or even when he was 2 for 18. They recognized that there was a competitor there. You know, he was going to go down with every last bullet. That was it, and that's why we love John.
To achieve what he's achieved. Who am I to tell him to stop shooting it? His fearlessness has helped us win many ball games, and his fearlessness has helped him in life.
John Starks wanted gold like nothing else in the world. He got silver. What a great story.
When it's all said and done, I have to say, I'm more than satisfied with what I've accomplished.
I remember back in the playoffs when you dunked that ball.
Yes, Chicago.
Yeah.
When you're in the heat of the battle, the game can feel like life or death, but it's not. You have to cherish every experience you go through, and all you can ask for is that you give it your all and never quit. Throughout my life in basketball, if I missed a couple of shots and I was slumping, a teammate would come up to me and say, "Don't worry about it, man. Keep shooting." I always took it as them just trying to boost my confidence. But it was much more than that. It was them telling me that they believed in me, that they trust me, that if we're gonna go down, there's nobody that they'd rather go down with. As I've learned through my ups and downs in life and in basketball, the real glory is only gained by never quitting. And the only way to win is to keep shooting.